We were just driving around looking for her. Everybody met at 3 at the church to go look for her, and we were just driving around.
This is Charlie Radel and his girlfriend Jackie Neal. They are currently standing at the front gate of an abandoned farmhouse in Lake Brownwood, Texas, commonly referred to as the Haunted House. Moments earlier, they placed this call to 911.
911, what's the location of your emergency?
I have no idea where I'm at. I am in the middle of nowhere. We were looking for Chantay Blankinship.
Okay.
We found her.
You okay? Does she need any medical attention?
Is she alive? She's dead. We were looking for Chantay Blankinship.
Chantay Blankinship had gone missing 2 days earlier while out on one of her usual evening walks. Her family quickly became concerned because Chantay could not read or write more than a few words. She could not drive, hold a job, or live independently. After receiving this call from Charlie and Jackie, who were helping search for Chantay, officers were immediately dispatched to the haunted house, roughly 5 miles away from where Chantay lived. They told the officers that when they arrived at the house, they quickly noticed fresh tire tracks in the dirt.
There's good tire tracks that just dead end at the gate and back out. And then there's spin out marks.
Like someone's been through it recently or something.
The couple also noticed what appeared to be human hair stuck to the gate, so they decided to search the rest of the property.
I walked around in the house.
Uh-huh.
I didn't see nothing in there and went to all the outbuildings.
Yeah.
And I was coming back and that storm cellar there had a bunch of grass knocked down. So I run around and looked and there she is. She's upside down in there and she is beat. I got a daughter that age. I don't find it.
Y'all want to have a seat in the truck so we don't make any more footprints than we've already got.
The officers went over to the storm cellar themselves, and inside they found Chantay exactly how Charlie described her. She had cuts and bruises all over her face and head. They also found a random lawnmower blade beside her body, and more blood on the outside of the storm cellar.
And there's blood spatter on that brick, so you know she's bleeding good.
It was clear that something horrific had happened to Chantay. The officers immediately secured the scene and performed a search of the property, starting right outside of the gate. In addition to the tire marks and the hair on the gate, there was also a trail of colorful bracelets scattered on the ground leading up to her body.
Here's another pink man right here, John.
Chantay was known to wear these bracelets on her arm, but it was not yet clear why or how they had come off. Leading up to the storm cellar, more hair was found. The hair was later confirmed as Chantay's. When the coroner examined her, they determined that the cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head, likely from the lawnmower blade found at the scene. They noticed that in addition to the cuts and bruises on her head and face, she also had bruises on her neck, arms, and legs. They also found male DNA on her body. But perhaps the most perplexing injuries were the jagged lines on her chest. No one had any idea what could have caused this type of injury. Since Chantay went missing on Friday the 13th, and her body was found at the haunted house, they wondered if whoever did this had a strange fixation with horror. While investigators continued processing the crime scene, officers went to the North Lake Church to inform the search party that the investigation was now a homicide.
And this is the church, North Lake. Pastor? How are you, sir? Hey, folks, could you have your attention just a minute? If you believe you have information that will assist in this investigation, I ask you don't discuss it with anybody else. I want your recollections to be your own. We'll be speaking to you as we get to you, all right?
Several people at the church said that on the day Chantay went missing, they had seen Chantay's boyfriend John Adams pick her up at the Monte Carlo Cafe before they returned home together. John then left for work at about 6 p.m., the same time that Chantay went on her daily walk. She then met up with her friend Caitlin, and the two walked together for a couple of hours.
Her grandpa called her right before we got to the end of the street. Said, "Hey, it's getting dark." She was like, "It's okay, Papa, I'll be home soon."
Caitlin said this phone call was around 8 p.m., which Chantay's grandfather later confirmed.
He says, "I'm walking." And that's all she said. And that's just about that.
After the call, she and Caitlin said goodbye to each other and parted ways about half a mile from Chantay's house.
She was laughing and just took off running.
Down the road.
Yeah, down the road.
It seemed that Caitlin was the last person to have seen Chantay alive, so the detectives were initially suspicious of her. But by the end of the interview, it was clear that she played no part in the murder. However, she was able to give them another lead.
She told me Colin told her to meet, or yeah, told her to meet him in the shed behind his house that night and not to tell anybody.
Whoever Colin was, it now seemed that he may have been the last person to see Chantay alive. So the detectives asked around to gather more information about him. They found out that Colin lived right around the corner from Chantay. He was in his early 20s and did odd jobs around the neighborhood, which included mowing lawns. Sometimes Colin and Chantay would go on joyrides together.
He used to ride around with them and stuff, and he used to just do stupid stuff, and he like firing up drunk.
The detectives decided to go to Colin's house to get his side of the story.
How you doing, sir? I'm Jason Shea. I'm with the Texas Rangers. What's your name? Colin.
They asked Colin when he last saw Chantay, and he said that he saw her from afar as she passed through the neighborhood on her usual evening walk.
But probably around the last time we seen her, it was around 6:37.
They then asked if the two had any sort of romantic relationship. According to Colin, Chantay had unrequited love for him.
I had to change my number because she would call it from like 6:30 in the morning to like midnight at night. Just call, hang up, call, hang up, call, hang up.
Like a high school girl.
Yeah.
Did y'all have any type of physical relationship at all? So never.
Having answered all of their questions, Colin seemed cooperative, but they couldn't take his word on anything just yet. They asked if he would come down to the station to take a polygraph test. He reluctantly agreed.
Why are we here today, Colin?
Well, we want to find out who the murderer is. I want to prove to them that it ain't me.
Colin seemed confident in proving his innocence right up until they were about to begin the polygraph, when suddenly he changed his story. He told the polygraph examiner that he actually did have a romantic relationship with Chantay.
Not a while. We thought we were dating, you know. Once everybody started telling me that she did have a boyfriend at home and stuff, John Adams. And I left her alone. And
when's the last time you've been with her?
A couple weeks ago.
With that information off of his chest, they hooked him up to the polygraph. Although these tests are unreliable, they are often used as a tool to pressure the suspect into providing more information.
Did you physically cause the death of Chantay?
No.
You don't know.
I don't know what happened.
How she died.
Not at all.
You don't know what kind of weapon was used.
After the test, the examiner broke the awkward news to Colin.
Okay, I've done a lot of these tests, and I'm looking at this, and I'm showing deception. Okay, I'm telling you right now that something is causing issues on this, and I want to get down to the bottom of it. If you didn't kill her,
I have no idea. I didn't do it. Bottom line.
As Colin continued to be criticized for his poor test results, he became more and more defensive.
I thought we were done.
Well, you still want to cooperate, right?
Yeah, don't make me out to be the bad guy, dude. We're in a serious problem. I will hire a lawyer.
Hey, I don't give one way or another if you're gonna hire them. Do not sit there and try to threaten me with I'm gonna hire a lawyer. You're the one that's in here cooperating, are you not?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I thought you said we were done, though.
Okay. Go ahead and put your hands together, please.
I thought you said we were done. I'm sorry.
Where did you stay that night?
On the couch in my brother's living room. Fall asleep watching basketball game.
Shortly after, the detective spoke with Colin's brother, and he, along with several other family members, confirmed Colin's alibi. This wasn't the strongest alibi, since all of the witnesses vouching for him were part of his family. But for now, they hit a dead end with Colin and decided to move on with their investigation. The detectives looked into several more persons of interest as well, including Charlie Radel and Jackie Neal, the ones who found Chantay's body. They wanted to know what inclined this couple to go out into the middle of nowhere, 5 miles away from where everybody else was searching, where they happened to find this obscured abandoned house. So they invited them both to the station and interviewed Charlie first.
Do you go by Charlie?
Everybody don't go by Chap.
Chap, okay.
CFJP.
Apparently, Charlie had seen Chantay around noon on the day she disappeared.
Friday, what was she wearing?
What was she wearing? A white shirt with kind of faded Daisy Duke shorts on.
He told the detectives that when he and Jackie heard that Chantay was missing, they immediately hit the country roads to look for her.
We said a prayer for Chantay's safe return. I was talking to the Lord, and I said, Lord, I hope she's okay, but if she's in a bad way, please show her to me. And me and Jackie talked. We checked every ditch, every culvert, all the way around.
He then said that he had once heard about this haunted house from his kids and thought that perhaps Chantay had gone to explore it and something bad happened.
I walked over to the galvanized gate and I'm propped up on it. I'm looking at that house. And Jackie, she comes up behind me. She pointed with her foot. She said, "What is that?" So I got down close to it and I grabbed it. I said, "Jackie, that's human hair." I shot through the fence and I went to the house.
After searching in and around the house, he noticed the storm cellar where he found her.
Jackie asked me, she said, "Is she dead?" I said, "Yeah, she's dead." I said, she had y'all on the phone. Said, "You sure it's Chantay?" I said, "Yeah, it's her."
Did you touch her?
No, I didn't touch her.
Why do you think somebody would kill her?
I don't know. I can't imagine how anybody could do something like that.
In an attempt to prove his innocence, Charlie volunteered to take a polygraph test.
Did you participate in killing Chantay?
Chantay, no.
Did you kill Chantay?
No.
No deception was detected in any of Charlie's answers, and the detectives had no solid evidence pointing to him as a suspect. They came to the same conclusion during Jackie's interview as well. Their DNA was collected, and they were put on the back burner while the detectives waited for the results from the crime lab. In the meantime, investigators moved on to their next person of interest, Chantay's boyfriend, John. They wondered if John had found out about Chantay's alleged love affair with Colin and killed her to get revenge. 2 days after Chantay's body was found, John allowed the detectives to inspect his and Chantay's shared bedroom.
Can we go inside?
Yeah.
You want to? Is this where y'all live in here?
Yeah.
Is there anything missing out of here?
No.
Can we have this brush? I'll dump this out. So she goes everywhere with her purse, but she just didn't have her purse today.
After an uneventful search, they headed back outside and told John the main reason they were there, to investigate him as a person of interest.
And normally, boyfriends are like going to be the number one suspect a lot of the times. And also a lot of the times when we do these, we do find another suspect. So when we do find the real killer, then, we could say, "Oh, we covered that base."
John seemed completely understanding, and his level of cooperation was unaffected. He proceeded to take the detectives on a tour of the property to look for more clues. During this search, the detectives stumbled upon what appeared to be a lawnmower graveyard.
Man, do you guys have a lawn care service or something? What is that on that hammer? Is that for pulling out nails or something?
Considering Chantay had been killed with a lawnmower blade, this greatly increased their suspicion of John. Following this search, he was asked to come to the station for an interview. Once he arrived, the detectives asked him if they could analyze his cell phone data, to which he happily agreed.
So the last time you talked to her on the phone?
John told the detectives that the last time he spoke to Chantay wasn't on the phone, it was in person. He gave them the same story that the other witnesses gave. He picked her up from the Monte Carlo cafe and drove her home. They both showered before he left for work at 6 p.m.
So you left and she stayed there?
Yeah.
Is that what time you have to be at work? Are you supposed to be at work at 6 or?
Well, I was 9, but I show up, you can have her. I would show up earlier.
You're supposed to go work at 9?
Yeah, no, I show up early.
This was later confirmed by the security cameras at John's work, along with the timesheets that indicated when he clocked in and out. After his overnight shift, he returned home at about 5 a.m., but Chantay was nowhere to be found.
That's when you discovered she wasn't there?
Yeah, I went and saw her in.
Did you start calling her phone?
Yeah, I called her phone and it's
John's timeline checked out, but it didn't mean that he was ruled out just yet. They still hadn't questioned John about Chantay's alleged love affair with Colin.
You have another girlfriend? Huh? You have another girlfriend? No. You want to go to the top thing that you don't?
No. I'm a faithful man. I'm a really.
Did she ever tell you that she's been sexually intimate with anybody else?
Never say anything about that. I would ask her.
Say no, or she just avoid the conversation?
Avoid the conversation and I say no.
The detectives revealed everything Colin had told them. John claimed this affair was news to him and seemed emotionally affected by it. Following this interview, John was free to go. There was no reason to label him as a suspect until the investigators looked through his cell phone data. It turns out that there were several messages John had deleted directly before heading to the police station. So the detectives asked John to come back to the station the next day, and they immediately confronted him about the messages.
Do you delete your text messages?
Yeah.
Okay. And apparently you deleted some yesterday before you showed up.
That was way early.
No, that's not what these text messages that you deleted. And you know what I'm talking about because you even told somebody, hey, my phone's clean.
Eventually, John gave another explanation for the deleted messages.
I smoke weed, and I just don't want that. That's one thing that would be in there.
Apparently, John deleted some incriminating messages between him and his dealer. The detectives weren't buying it, so they applied more pressure, trying to get John to confess. However, just like last time, they had no choice but to let him go. And after looking further into the deleted text messages, it turns out John was telling the truth. But the detectives weren't done with him just yet. They reached out to John and Chantay's inner circle to see what dirt they could dig up. Apparently, John's jealousy had affected the relationship on more than one occasion. For example, one of Chantay's friends, Bitsy Hobbs, was able to recall overhearing a fight between the couple.
You said, I'm your boyfriend, and I have a right. She said, no, you don't. You do not have control over me. I'll see whoever I want to. Well, no control over me. You cannot tell me what to do. Well, went on cussing. And
Those who were close to John also said that around the time of Chantay's murder, he seemed to believe that the relationship was a lost cause and expected it to end sometime soon. But this new information still wasn't enough to obtain a confession, so they interviewed John 2 more times. And each time, he maintained that while his relationship wasn't perfect, he would never lay a hand on her. Once again, this lead fizzled out and was put on the back burner while they awaited DNA results. During their initial interviews with members of the church, some people said that they saw a red and white Ford Bronco driving around the area Chantay disappeared. After searching the database and asking around, they found a young man that drove this vehicle, the only one in town with a red and white Bronco. His name was Bobby Souza, a so-called party animal. While stopping by his residence, Bobby let the detectives search his house, shed, and trailer for evidence, but they didn't find anything. He also agreed to come down to the station for an interview.
I understand you guys gotta do your job.
Bobby said that he drove by Chantay while driving around that night, but had nothing to do with her disappearance.
If you did have something to do with this, you need to let me know now.
I would have told you day one.
He explained that he was at a party at the time that Chantay disappeared, and that his fellow partygoers could vouch for him. Following this interview, the detectives were easily able to confirm Bobby's claims, crossing a potential suspect off their list. This list was actually much bigger than the 6 names you see here. Throughout the entirety of this case, there were dozens of leads, and the detectives looked into every single one of them. They even investigated the pastor of the community church at one point. None of these leads panned out. To make matters worse, the DNA results came back and none of the suspects were a match, and nothing in the CODIS National DNA database matched either. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. Chantay's pink-decorated funeral came and went. All the while, the killer roamed free. Hopes to bring this monster to justice slowly faded, and trust in the neighborhood faded with it. Somebody knew what happened to Chantay, yet nobody came forth. One day, in 2017, a retired Brown County investigator was watching a true crime show and learned about a brand new DNA technique.
Digging a little deeper, we found that the technology is called Snapshot. It's created by a company based out of Virginia called Parabon. It uses DNA to configure the physical attributes of a person. But the best part, the technology doesn't need much to do the test. As little as 1/13 of your saliva from a sip of a bottle of water is enough to make a profile.
He told Brown County Sergeant Scott Bird about this new technology, and after convincing some colleagues, funding was approved. The authorities submitted the DNA to the Parabon Nanolabs in Virginia, and 5 months later, they came back with this profile. A Caucasian man of Northern European descent with blue eyes and brown hair. Law enforcement immediately posted the image online, hoping that somebody could point out who it resembled. As the image was shared between Chantay's family, her half-brother Cutter immediately thought of someone, his high school bully, Ryan Riggs. The resemblance was uncanny. Ryan had just started working in lawn care around the time of Chantay's disappearance. He was also a member of her church, and not only did he help search for her, but he even came to her funeral. Although he didn't enter the building, he waited in line, got to the front door, flipped through the service program, and then left. Looking through his criminal record, he was also a suspect in an illegal dumping case. Someone had been dumping trash bags on a county road in the same area as the haunted house. The detectives went to Ryan's residence, but it was already too late. Ryan was gone. They immediately launched a manhunt, but before it could get off the ground, something shocking happened. On November 17th, 2017, right before a regular Wednesday night church service, Ryan showed up with his parents. He asked Pastor Ron Keener if he could confess to the congregation during the service, and the pastor agreed. The service commenced with Ryan standing at the pulpit.
In his brokenness, he said that I need to make things right with you, but more importantly, I need to make things right with God and with my church family. And he said, I need to confess something to you. And he said, I murdered her.
Everybody was devastated. Some dropped to their knees in sorrow, while others were consumed by anger. Pastor Keener invited these people to the pulpit, and one by one, they embraced Ryan and told him they forgive him and that he was loved. Once the service ended, Pastor Keener drove Ryan to the sheriff's office to be turned in. When he arrived, he was brought into the interrogation room for questioning.
You good? You okay? Bottle of water? I'm gonna have one. I just have one. Okay. Sheriff just gave me a call a little while ago and said that you got something off your chest, and we're just gonna see if you tell us what you got off your chest.
I'm the one who murdered Chantay Blankinship.
When did this happen?
On Friday the 13th.
So this happened on Friday the 13th. Tell me about that day. How did you start that day out?
It was just like an average day to me up until I did what I did.
Is this something you're thinking about doing, or is it just something when you woke up to that morning that those thoughts came over you? Or?
Well, before I had seen Chantay walking, I had decided to go for a drive in my truck, because sometimes I just like to drive around the community and blare loud music. And whenever I was driving and I had seen her, just immediately it was like something else had come over me.
So she just happened to be in the wrong spot? You think it's just you saw her and knew her and thought, this is somebody that'll work for this? Do you know?
It's like I didn't have any thought process at all. My eyes were watching me do what I was doing, but there was no thought behind it. Just one evil.
Where did you find Chantay that day?
She was walking past the mailboxes, and I had stopped and asked her if she needed a ride, and she got in my truck. And I asked her if she was going home, and she said no. I asked her if she wanted to hang out. She said yes.
The two drove around the neighborhood for a bit before Ryan pulled over in a secluded area.
When y'all were sitting in the truck talking, what are y'all talking about?
Music.
What y'all liked, or what was playing, or what?
Well, I had a sound system in my truck, so I was letting her go through all my music and stuff. And I was talking to her about the music that she liked. And every time she'd play a song, she'd say something like, "Oh, that's my song." Out of nowhere, I just put my left arm around her and began to strangle her. She had passed out.
After the assault, he was worried that Chantay would tell someone what happened if he let her live, so he decided to kill her.
I went to that abandoned house on County Road 424. And I dragged her body out of my truck. Then I threw her over that fence, and then climbed over the fence and dragged her to that tank battery where I put her. I went back to my truck and got a lawnmower blade out of the back of my truck. And I went back to where she was, and I beat her to death with it to make sure that she was dead.
Do you think she was dead before that?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Why do you not think so?
Because parts of her body were still moving and twitching.
Were her eyes open or closed?
Her eyes were open, but they were open the entire time.
No. Did you use anything else hitting her besides the lawnmower blade?
I remember putting a knife to her throat, even though it wasn't sharp at all. I had stomped on her chest as well.
The odd mark on Chantay's chest finally had an explanation. It was from the bottom of Ryan's shoe. Ryan then told the detectives something brand new. He described the internal battle he was fighting throughout this entire ordeal.
I had seen her just immediately. It was like something else had come over me. It's like this different part of me that it just wants nothing but destruction and evil. It wanted to kill somebody. And whenever I saw her that day, it took over.
What is it? Your destructive side, is that what you're talking about?
The only thing I can think of what it might be is Satan.
Satan.
Ryan is essentially saying that he was possessed by an evil entity, and that entity killed Chantay. He was just the vessel. But this is complete nonsense. What about the 18 months following Chantay's murder? Why didn't he turn himself into the police when he wasn't possessed? It's more likely that this was a tactic to garner sympathy while offloading any responsibility.
How did you know Chantay?
Well, she was widely known in that community, so everyone knows everyone out there. Sometimes I feel like that she liked me and she was always trying to flirt. I didn't want anything to do with that.
When you say she would flirt with you, what would she do?
She would just joke and just talk and laugh.
Right.
But I would just block her out as soon as she wasn't there. I think whatever came over me knew that she was an easy target.
You think that's because she was a small girl or because she had the mental problems or both? Had you ever had those type of thoughts about anybody before?
Not anyone specific, but wanting to do that to a person, yes.
How long have you been having those thoughts before this happened?
I've always had these thoughts. We used to have a Chihuahua.
Ryan went on to describe how he would torment his family dog, but would stop once he realized what he was doing.
Your parents never saw you do it?
No, I always made sure to do it whenever they were away.
If you could say something right now to Chantay, what would you say?
That I'm sorry that I did what I did. And whatever I have coming towards me, I deserve.
The interview was wrapped up and Ryan was charged with capital murder.
Why did it take you a year and a half to confess, Mr. Riggs? Why did it take you 18 months to confess?
On my face.
In response to these charges, Chantay's mother Michelle and her stepfather Stephen released a video on social media expressing their gratitude.
Hey everyone, I don't know if everybody knows, but we caught him. We got him tonight for a capital murder trial. God has blessed us with him, and it breaks my heart because this man went to church with her, and he's just a kid himself. But I wanted everyone to know that we appreciate everything y'all have done. And
However, Chantay's family ultimately didn't want to pursue the death penalty, as they believed being in prison for the rest of his life would be a harsher punishment. So the state offered Ryan a plea deal, which he accepted.
21-year-old Ryan Riggs is sentenced to life without parole after pleading guilty to capital murder in the killing of Rhonda Chantay Blankinship.
Ryan Riggs is now 28 years old and is serving his sentence at the All Red Unit in Iowa Park, Texas.
I shouldn't be shocked that he did this, and we saw that troubled look in his eyes that's always been there until last Wednesday night. And he got mixed up in that experience out there at the Juvenile Detention Center. I don't know if it's surfaced in y'all's records, but he stole a gun, and all of that mess. And that was right before his 16th birthday. You could just see where he was headed. That's what hurts me, is that why I didn't pick up on that way back in May of 2016 is thinking, what if Ryan did that?
None of us have a crystal ball.
But he's been a troubled child from day one. I replayed that in my mind. I didn't get that. I mean, right there at the search that Sunday afternoon, on the 15th, he was there. He was there at her service.
He was there in front of us the whole time.
Yeah.
We just never knew who he was.